What's going on, everybody? Today is Monwan Monday, December 9th, 2024. We are back to discuss another episode of Survivor 47. This one is episode 12, which was called Operation Italy. I'm actually really excited to talk about this episode with you guys. I thought it was a pretty crazy one. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Here's the intro. All right. Now I have to make one little change here real quick. I'm sorry. 1 second. Because my name's wrong.
Oh.
It's the wrong
mistake. Rookie
mistake.
I
know. All right, here we are. Okay, we're ready. My name, of course, is John Dunphy Wright, standing the sexy Sierra. I'm joined, as always, by my fellow tribe mates. Joined, as always, by my fellow tribe mates, Miss Gina Morgino and Mr. Mikey Marmon. What's going on, guys? How are
you? Doing good. Well, how are you, John?
Not bad, actually. You know, it's funny. I discovered this weekend that I work with somebody named Mike Marmon. No Mikey, just Mike. And Marmon
is his last name?
Marmon, but it's spelled Marmen. Isn't that weird?
An imposter among us.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't. The only Marmons I know I'm related to, so that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's an imposter out there.
Weird.
Get rid of him.
Unfortunately, we are without Kyle tonight, which is very sad. We know. I know, right? What a night to miss. Operation Italy. Come on. But all right, we are going to get into this. Three of us. We are Strat Chat, your favorite reality TV podcast. So find us on the socials at Strat Chat Pod. All right, let's get into this. This was a crazy one. I feel like, so Operation Italy came about because of the reward challenge that we got on this episode. But before we get into that, just like to kind of go over what happened before the reward challenge. Obviously, the tribe came back to camp after just voting out Kyle. It was very funny to me how like excited Sue was. I don't know. Like, Sue and Caroline were talking about like losing Kyle or whatever, but Sue was just so overexcited that I just like it was crazy.
I wish I liked Sue more. Like, I want to think she's fun, and I just don't.
Listen, I don't like her either, Gina. I'm on your side. Bad vibes.
She's not fun, chaotic, you know? She's just like...
She's just mean. That was mean.
Yeah. I will say we got a little bit of like an explanation about why Sue always looks so dirty. Apparently Caroline and Sue think that they are running this game. Okay. They have been running this game. I haven't seen it, but apparently they are. And we found out from Caroline that Sue has been running around, getting on her hands and knees, looking for idols anywhere she can find them. And that's why she just keeps getting dirtier and dirtier, as if there's not an entire ocean 20 feet away from their camp where she can rinse herself off.
In Caroline's post-game interview as well, they asked her about how dirty Sue is, and apparently part of it is like she spends so much time like at the fire that she's just like got soot all over her hands and is constantly like touching her face with the soot on her hands, and they just like it was too much, like they couldn't scrub it off. But like still, it's like it's so funny because if you look at her compared to everybody else, she is so dirty.
I've like never paid attention to it before, but because you keep bringing it up, I was really looking at it in this episode, and I was like, oh my god, how have I not noticed it before?
Crazy.
Yeah, and it was really funny. I know, I don't get it either. But like it was funny because during this Caroline and Sue segment at the beginning of the episode, there was a point where we actually saw Sue telling Caroline, like, oh, you got some dirt on your face, like telling her to rub it off. It was like, Sue.
They knew what they were doing putting that in there.
Definitely. Definitely. We have a comment here from Writer Thing who says, if Andy wins, would be crazy. I agree in where Andy started. Like I feel
Yeah.
like
The
I
arc was
thought
crazy.
yeah, I thought it was absolutely crazy, and now even especially after watching this episode, I feel like it's not crazy at all.
It is
Mhm.
well within the world of
Yeah.
possibility.
1,000%.
Yeah. And just to like kick things off, I feel like, in terms of Andy, I feel like the first thing we got really from him was Genevieve apologizing to him. One of the things we talked about last week was how, Genevieve's game had been very sloppy. And she was just like, at one point, I think approached Rachel saying, like, why are we keeping people like Andy and Sue in the game? Like these people that are just being shepherded to the end of the game. And she apologized to Andy. And this wasn't the first apology that Andy got in the episode.
Mhm.
I thought that Genevieve and Sam both did a very good job of like making Andy feel comfortable to come back on their side and work with them, which I feel like Andy was already thinking about because
Right.
Andy has been proving himself to be a pretty smart player, who can seemingly flip between two sides very easily without anybody noticing, which is a credit to him. Um, but yeah, I mean, we saw Genevieve go and apologize to Andy for being respectful towards his game, um, and we saw Genevieve also recognize that like this is a time for her to sort of shrink into the background a little bit. Like she's been trying to play the big bad wolf, as she called it, but she needs to take a back seat. At least let other people think she's taking a back seat, and be a little bit more cautious.
Mhm.
I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Genevieve approaching Andy with this apology?
I mean, it definitely worked out in her favor. Yeah, I don't know that I guess someone would have told Andy about what she said. I think it was I don't necessarily know that it was the most necessary thing to do for her and him specifically, but I think by doing that, she gave herself much more I mean, like they created options in that moment. And so I think it was a good call.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
think it went a
Yeah.
long way as the episode went on. Um, I have to tell you, I am becoming more than a tiny bit tired of Teeny.
No! I love Teeny.
Even after this episode,
I do,
Uh,
honestly.
I
I thought
It
Tina
was
made
a
a fool
rough
of themselves this
one. It was a
episode.
rough one. I'm not
This
gonna
Nah.
was a really
lie.
rough one. I thought it was bad enough when Genevieve and Teeny were talking, and Genevieve just saying that like Rachel being dangerous in the game and wanting to get Rachel out because it would make everything easier for everyone else in the game still. Teeny being like, "Oh, you would vote for Rachel over me? Is that a threat?" I'm like, "What are you
Yeah.
talking about?" Like, it started off bad, and it got even
Mm.
worse when we got into the reward challenge.
Yeah. Teeny seems like a wonderful person, but like the game is really,
It wa
really
wasn't
getting to
wasn't their
them.
best. Wasn't their best.
Yeah, I think the game is really getting to them in a way, and
Yeah.
I don't think they've pulled off enough moves or they haven't really like led any votes in any way that it they're just in a spot that's really tough, and I
Yeah, I
don't think there's a true path to the million at this point for Teeny.
yeah, I unfortunately don't see a Teeny win for the season. It's just
No,
it's not their game.
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Yeah, and
Um.
I mean, if skipping ahead, if we're talking about Teeny, I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead. And
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
when someone goes on a reward and your thing, and you've actually like spoken to Andy and spoken to Teeny about being like, uh spoken to Andy and spoken to Genevieve about being like, no, I'm not changing my vote. Like, we're not doing this. You're not going to convince me. And then being mad,
Yeah.
and your reasoning that not you're not chosen to go for a reward, and your reasoning being mad was, well, they could have tried to convince me otherwise. Like, that's what do you mean? You said you would. Why would they? If anything, like, why would you be the one they picked? Why would they would go for somebody else? You've made your stance very clear. So
Mhm.
even if he didn't pick Andy and Genevieve, which obviously was the right call, like at the end of the day, like Sam did the right thing. Um, you probably weren't the next choice regardless, because you have made a point of saying that you're stuck in your vote. So it was just really, really rough to
It's just
watch.
that
And like,
specifically that whole segment made me feel itchy. I was like, "Just shh,
yeah, just,
stop, please, please
whew,
stop, please."
ay. That was a tough one. That was a tough one.
Yeah. No, definitely. Um. Now, after the Genevieve and Teeny conversation that we had spoken about earlier, Teeny went back and told Rachel that Genevieve was actively targeting her. Um, and Rachel's been, she's had a good game, but it was funny because it seemed like she was like totally unbothered by this when it first was brought up. And there was a lot of talk about having confidence in this underdogs alliance. And I was a little surprised. Like, I know that they feel confident in the alliance, but like, you're at the final 7 of Survivor. Like, somebody saying your name, I was surprised that Rachel was like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, I feel good."
Also, I just like to bring up the irony of calling an alliance of 5 people in a game of 7 people the underdogs.
Yes.
Right. Right.
That's insane.
It's a huge alliance for the
Like,
season.
what do you mean you're the underdogs?
Mhm.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Uh,
But all right, so we had a reward challenge. During this challenge, the players would race through sandbag obstacles and retrieve a ball from a net tunnel, then grab a second ball and crawl under a net, where they would then have to throw 2 balls onto raised purchases. Purchase. Oh my god, purchases.
Purchases.
What am I talking about? Purchase. I'm thinking about Christmas purchases, right? It's December. But purchase is what they had to throw the balls on. Now, this was a pretty great reward. This included the winner earning an overnight trip to the Survivor Sanctuary, where they would be able to eat Italian food, have wine and margaritas and tiramisu, and the cherry on top, of course, the letters from home. And so, yeah, this was a pretty good challenge, I thought. Rachel got off to a great start. Sam absolutely killed that
the
crawling under the
thing,
net. Yeah, the net.
Bodied it. It was crazy.
Yeah. And it's because of that like he won. He made up so much time in that.
Yeah.
That even with Rachel landing a ball at one point, Sam still took the win. It was close between Sam and Rachel, but Sam did end up
proven
winning.
to be a bit of a challenge beast, unexpectedly so.
Yeah, she does not play around.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
she's good.
Yeah. And it's funny because like we've talked about Sam and like people feeling like he might be a comp threat, but he's never really won anything. And it's funny because well, it's funny because he continues to lose immunity after immunity, but like it was even brought up in this episode that like he's been to the sanctuary more than anybody else. He seems to win lots of rewards, but no actual immunity challenges. So, and of course, with Sam winning, he was able to pick 2 people to go with him on the journey to the sanctuary, which was he chose Andy and Genevieve. Yeah, I feel like I said again at the beginning, Sam and Genevieve did a great job of patching things up with Andy here. But between the Genevieve apology first, Sam picking Andy to go on the reward, and like I think that Andy's surprise was genuine here. Like he said, like I'm not sure how like good our relationship is in the game, me and Sam, but like Sam said, I'm going to stick to my word. I told you I'd bring you to a reward, so I'm doing it. And I think that right there too, that might have been the moment that Andy was like, I'm flipping for sure.
I think it went a long way that he also picked Andy first.
Yep.
Also, because with Andy being someone who has like expressed how he is always picked last for things, to like get that first pick like probably meant like a lot in that moment for him too, which I'm sure went a really long way in him building that comfort.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is like where we saw the second moment where I was really annoyed with Teeny. There was something funny. Jeff asked, like, what do you think? What do you think of Sam's picks, and how does this impact the game? And it was funny because like Teeny raised their hand immediately and started talking about how like it was stupid because Genevieve and Sam are already this clear duo that everybody's against, and it's like, but who made them that duo? Like,
exactly, you put them in that position. Right. What were they supposed to do?
Teeny made it seem as if like this whole group has tried to work with Sam and Genevieve, and Sam and Genevieve just won't let them in, and this and that, and it's like, no, Teeny, like.
Sam and Genevieve have done nothing but try to work with you.
Right.
It's also just, it's tough because it's like once you dwindle down to these few numbers, to so publicly call out people like that is a little crazy. Like there's not a lot of numbers required to get you out. So if the clear duo sees that you are publicly labeling them a duo and giving them a public call out for not taking you in a reward. What's stopping them from being like, get Teeny out of here? Like that, it's a dangerous call out.
Yeah, it also just makes you look like a fool when it doesn't go out the way you so boldly predicted, which it didn't. It was the exact opposite of that. Sam and Genevieve both still in the game, and one of your allies is out.
Mm-hmm.
I was almost surprised, but then I realized I was surprised it didn't even go towards Teeny for a minute. I was like, I thought maybe they would target Teeny because of what Teeny's been saying, but then I realized that nothing she hasn't really been saying it to them. And so unless Sue, Caroline, or Rachel like went to the three of them and were like, hey, this is what Teeny said, they wouldn't really have any way of knowing just how upset she was or how upset they were in that moment and how like much of a fuss they made.
Right, because they did leave before Jeff asked.
Right.
The
but I don't know.
right?
I think like if you at this point, like when you have an outburst like that, like and you're not really playing the game that like you need to be playing to win. If you are to make it to that final three, the jury's gonna look at you and be like, no. Like it's I don't know. It was a tough look. It was a tough look.
Oh yeah, I mean the way that Teeny was going up, saying that Sam's decision was foolish, that this would be their last supper, and that this decision would have a horrible outcome for everybody. You know, I'm just like, everybody is playing their game, Teeny. Just because you don't like this decision doesn't mean that. Like, I just couldn't stand this. Oh my god,
it was rough. It was rough.
And to compare it to the outbreak from what Liz last season,
the Applebee's one.
That one was so much about I'm fucking hungry and I want to eat. It was never even really a moment of she should have picked me because I am going to like improve your game. Like it was just like she should have picked me because I'm fucking hungry, and that like feels so much more valid to me than trying to like. It's okay to be upset that you weren't picked. That's not like you're allowed to have those emotions, but like trying to like wrap it up in this bow of like what a terrible game decision. They're really screwed themselves. They're just like, that's what made it so cringy for me.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, like you're running on fumes, you're tired, you're hungry, you're sleeping on the dirt. Like I get being upset. That's so fair. But like is in a show like in a game like this, you need to be clear about what you're upset about and honest about what you're upset about, or else you're just going to make yourself look crazy.
Yeah.
So, Sam, Genevieve, and Andy all went to the sanctuary. They were having their Italian food, hanging out, having a great time. Sam apologized to Andy for not being a good friend. That's what like was very impactful to me too. Knowing about Andy, like coming into the game and like the struggles he's had, socially. I feel like it was very big for Sam to come in and say, like, I really apologize for not being like the friend I should have been to you in the beginning of the game, but also like, like the teammate I should have been. Like it was like Sam was very careful to emphasize like I should have treated you better. I should have been a better friend to you, and I feel like that means a lot to Andy. And so getting apologies from both of them. Now Andy comes in with this big plan about like what they should do, going forward in the game. But also Genevieve, I just have to say about this whole reward. Genevieve like is very interesting to me as a player. And just her whole thing with like the Keyshawn vote, and how like the way that it impacted her, that when she blindsided him and he turned to her and said like I trusted you, and how that has like altered the way that she has played the game. But she's still here and she's struggled, but as we know, she's going to the final six. She was part of a huge plan that got her through another week, and it just makes me like Genevieve even more, and I feel like she is somebody that I could see coming back for a future season.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think there are other people that are like very good as choices to come back for future seasons, but Genevieve right now is like at the top of my list of like, and she might still win this for all I know, but like, if she doesn't, even if she does, I feel like I want to see Genevieve play a game again where she's like more sure of herself from start to finish, like throughout the season, because she's just a very interesting player. Yeah,
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I keep cutting everyone off. No, I was gonna say it's just crazy because we were not that long ago. It was either last week, 2 weeks ago,
I
maybe.
was like last week, yeah.
Talking about how like I don't know what Genevieve's path forward is going to look like in this game because she's come out with all these like hot plans and now everybody knows that she's a mastermind and she's manipulative, so she can't really keep playing it that way, so it's not like she can keep making these big moves. Now, like she's going to flounder. What is she going to do? And then to see the plan that she is a part of crafting in this episode, how it went over so well, completely blindsided everybody. It's like the way that she was able to adapt from like playing such a clear manipulation game that got outed and still being able to be a part of a manipulation is wild.
And like, not for nothing, all three of them with this plan succeeded. Like it was so perfectly done. There was so much that could have gone wrong. And just like, I mean, Sam made a comment being like, I'm going to need 5 Oscars if this goes right. And I like all three of them really, really pulled it off. In that
to the
way.
very end, literally, like when Jeff was like, "Does anybody have an idol you want to play?" And he's like, "Genevieve, do it. Like it's fine. Like however it goes, it goes. Like just play it. It's fine." She's like, "No, like I'll be okay. It's fine." I was like, "Oh my god!"
And with that theater background, and
it was crazy.
The fake idol looked real enough.
Yeah.
That whole moment was enough. Like that, and just the fact that it was timed so well that Andy came over just as Genevieve was bringing out the idol. Like it just all was so perfectly done. And like, it's so funny because in the edit, it felt like Andy kept within minutes of each other, just being like, we're going to split the vote, right? We're going to split the vote, right? But like knowing like logically that just like came over hours and hours and hours. And he was just consistent with it and persistent with it. Just, yeah, no, this was a really great plan. And depending, I mean, if any one of them is in the finale without the other two, this is a game-winning plan for that person.
For sure.
Regardless, whether, yes, it came from Andy's brain, but it was not possible without all three of them.
Yeah.
So this is a move that they can all claim.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, of course. But yeah, this was a great move. It would have been better if they could have gotten Rachel just because of how big a player she is with that idol and that advantage in her pocket. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of found it more fun that they couldn't get Rachel because like we had this clear-cut plan and now it's on its head. So it's like, all right, well, we're still going to do the plan, but how now,
Yeah. And you know what's funny? It's like I love when like things from earlier in the game come back into play, because like I'm sure they could have still come up with something to like make a fake idol, but like I completely forgot about Sam's expired idol that he had gotten pre-merge. You know what I mean? And like the fact that it came back into play here for this plan, I love that kind of stuff. All right, so this pretty much, we had the Sam and the people that he chose for Operation Italy. They were planning back at the sanctuary. We had our 4 back at camp, the 4 girls, right? We had, and then we had our immunity challenge. So this immunity challenge required balance, dexterity, and touch. The castaways, they had to navigate a balance beam while transporting a pole with a ball on top. Then they'd have to use the pole to maneuver 2 skulls through a maze. And finally, they'd have to balance 3 small balls. Oh my God, I can't even talk today. 3 small balls on a flat plate so that they fall into narrow dimples. Rachel was the only one to get any balls to land in the final stage. She absolutely killed this. She became our immunity winner. So Rachel's safe. Operation Italy has to change. And they would now have to choose between either Teeny or Caroline.
But they never even considered Sue.
Yeah, why was Sue not an option? I was just going to ask you that.
I don't even remember them making this decision, if I'm being honest.
Is it simply that they think that Teeny and Caroline are bigger threats?
Probably. I don't even remember them discussing Teeny. It felt like they went immediately for Caroline, no?
Well, I think they immediately went for Caroline, but it was more so there was, like, one confessional where Andy was like, "Well, what do we do now? Because Rachel was the plan, she was the target,
Mhm.
like, so what do we do now? Is it gonna be Teenie? Is it gonna be Caroline?" But you're right, like, they did eventually very quickly fall onto Caroline. I'm just
Yeah.
curious why Sue was never an option.
I
But,
wonder if they just are not seeing her as a threat.
yeah,
I think maybe they're looking at Sue, and I mean, like, realistically, besides finding that idol, Sue hasn't done much. She's been on the right side of votes, but because she was just in an alliance that happened to be on the right side of votes.
yeah.
Um,
Um, she's really just talked a lot about how much she wanted to kill Kyle for some reason. Um, but alright, so where am I at here? We talked about some of this stuff already. So obviously, we talked about Genevieve showing the fake idol to Teenie, but like the perfect timing of Andy coming up to kind of break up the whole
Like,
thing.
as if they talked about it ahead of time. It was, like,
I know,
crazy.
yeah. And Teenie definitely fell for it right away.
mhm.
But I think right because I feel like at this point Teenie felt still pretty good about things. Like maybe it would have. I almost wish that Teenie had like gone and spoken to somebody about this, like Rachel or Sue or Caroline, to kind of like compare stories. Because after Genevieve showed this fake idol to Teenie never went back to be like, hey, I saw the idol. Like, let's just vote Sam out. And I wonder if like that would have caused all of them, right? Teenie, Rachel, Caroline, and Sue to just say, all right, you know what? Let's just be safe. Let's just throw all our votes on Sam, or let's just do 3-1 or something like that, so that we still have 3 votes going on somebody and only one on somebody else, or something like that. Because I feel like in this moment, Teenie was shown the fake idol by Genevieve and was like, okay, it's real, but I want Sam gone anyway. So if Genevieve has an idol, who cares? And Teenie never discussed this whole conversation that they had with Sam and Genevieve with the rest of the group. Um,
I think maybe in the situation like this that you don't want to call back on splitting the vote because even if yes we know Genevieve has the idol, we know she's going to play the idol. There's always a chance that she doesn't.
right,
Mhm.
Even if it's like you're so 100%, and the whole point of splitting the vote is that there is a backup.
right,
So I think it wouldn't have made sense if once they decided to split the vote to not do that anymore just because you thought she was going to play the idol because now you know okay she's going to play the idol, we're still going to get Sam out. But if she doesn't, we get her out. I think it's just a safety situation, and I think I don't know. It's hard to say how much time they had left before they went to
Mhm.
tribal after that idol situation. It's very possible that there wasn't time for Teeny to go and switch the plan up at all.
yeah. I guess, man, I'm just thinking to myself though, how like if they had just decided, even with Andy involved, to split it just like one vote on somebody else instead of two, because like they split it 2-2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Three
if
and
they
two,
had,
yeah.
well, three and
Technically.
two, but not knowing that Andy was going. If they had
But
said we'll make it a 4-1 vote or something like that, we'll split it that way. Like I don't know. Like we got to load it up. But I mean,
and
it's exciting how
that's
it all
part of
happened.
what made this plan so well is that they were able to manipulate even just the vote itself into a 3-2 vote, but also to make sure that Andy was part of the three
Yeah,
was so
yeah,
important because if Andy was part of the two, then it's
Mhm.
the plan's moot.
yeah,
So I mean, that's just goes to show that's just another reason that this plan was so smart and was so well executed is because of, and I guess that it must have fallen almost entirely on Andy, but his ability to get them to keep that vote the way it needed to be.
yeah,
Especially, like, I just watched the episode today, so I was spoiled on how it ended up, so I knew that, like, this whole like, I had seen people talking about the plan, on social media or whatever, and I knew that it was going to work, which made it so fun for me to, like, watch the formation of it, because especially you got that confessional from Genevieve of like, all right, here's all the ways that this could not work. And she's listing out like this long list of ways in which this could go wrong. And it's like, this is literally an impossible plan. I cannot believe that they executed this. And the whole episode, I'm like, how did they do this? Because it's masterful.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, the goal of the plan is simple. The goal is get them to split the vote. You know what I mean? But it's just the logistics of that are what make it so complicated. Because at the end of the day, like, and it's possible Andy walks up to them, hey, I think we should split the vote today. And they're all like, yeah. And that's it. You know what I mean? Done and done. But it's just like the logistics of like 5 different people with 5 different opinions on how this should go and making that work in your favor. That's it's very, very impressive and was incredibly fun to watch. And the editing of like making it into like a heist movie was really fun. I was watching on the podcast, on their podcast, the On Fire podcast. Jeff was saying that the editors went and watched all of the Ocean's 11 movies to really get into the mindset of how to
I love that.
how to cut that section, which I thought was so funny.
I love that.
Like, oh no, I've got to watch Ocean's 11 for work. Dang it.
You could tell they had a great time throwing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. The editors of this show, man, they're no joke.
They don't play around.
No, for real.
It's good stuff.
Now, I have a note here about some of the advantages, the real advantages that are out there in the game right now, but I'm going to skip that for now because I think it could be interesting to talk about how they'll impact the game going forward because none of them were used during the Tribal Council. So is there anything in particular about the Tribal Council, anything that was said by anybody that you want to talk about? Because to me, it felt like it was just more of everybody kind of doing their jobs, right? Sam, Genevieve, and Andy keeping up the ruse that something was going on. I feel like we had Teeny, Sue, Rachel, and Caroline just keeping up. Oh, we're the majority, so everything should be fine. There wasn't really anything like exciting that was said,
not really
specifically at Tribal, right? But obviously the votes were very exciting. So it was time to vote. No one played an idol or an advantage, like I said, and the votes came in. Sam, Genevieve, Caroline. Sam, Genevieve, Caroline. We were 2-2-2 right till the end when Caroline's name was read out, which meant that Operation Italy was a success, even without being able to vote out Rachel. And we saw the jury talking. We saw Soul specifically saying that was Andy. Andy flipped again. Obviously, Sue is very upset. And yeah, I mean, it's Caroline goes home. This is crazy. I mean, coming into this episode, we were talking about a 5 versus 2 split, right? And now with Andy flipping and Caroline voting out, it's basically we're at 3 versus 3. Although who knows if that'll even happen, because I feel like I could see people now scrambling, trying to figure out where do I fit in best. We see in the next on that Teeny starts telling Sam and confirming for Sam and Genevieve what Andy already told them about Rachel's block a vote. So like is Teeny flipping, or is Teeny just kind of using that as like a threat, like, oh, Rachel has this block of vote if you guys try something? Because technically Sue, Rachel, and Teeny could still make up a majority if they vote together and Rachel blocks one of the other 3's votes.
Sure.
So it's all very interesting, which is why I'm glad that Rachel didn't use her block of vote. Sue didn't use her idol. Rachel still has an idol. Like, there's a lot of things in play here going into Final 6.
And those are good up until 5?
I was going to say, does Sue's idol still good?
I think Sue and Rachel's idols are full idols that are good until the final 5. Rachel Rachel has to use her block of vote next week. Or else she
doesn't have to use it.
But she doesn't have to.
Well, if she doesn't,
yeah, she doesn't have
Rachel
to,
and
but if
Sue
she
are
doesn't, then it's dead.
Which means that it's between Genevieve, Teeny, and Andy and Sam next Tribal. Assuming Rachel and Sue play their idols for themselves, right? Or is the idols good till 5?
It's till 5. Yeah.
Idols till 5. Block a vote till the next one.
Okay.
So selfishly, as someone who still has Rachel on their team and only Rachel, I'm hoping that she can find a way to like use the block a vote to her advantage.
Yeah,
next
we
week.
can't all have 3 people on our team.
Well, we're getting there.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5. That's a fair read.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping that Rachel somehow finds a way to use the block a vote next week to her advantage, and then has the idols that we guarantee she's going to Final Four. But
And I'm praying that Sam finally wins that elusive immunity that he's been gunning for so hard.
yeah. All right. So next on, Teeny doesn't trust anyone, and he's ready to take over the game. Teeny, we see, tells Sue the idol is fake. So maybe it's found out that Genevieve's idol is fake. I don't remember if there was any more context to that.
That was another funny moment in the episode for me where, like, watching it, I was like, oh, I would be a shit Survivor player. Because you have, like, Genevieve in her confessional being like, oh, I can't let Teeny get a good enough look at it because, like, you know, if they look at it too closely, they're going to know it's fake. And Teeny, when they see the idol, the first thing they says is this real? It's real, right? I would never for a second question. If someone showed me an idol, I'd be like, yep, that's an idol. Like, there is nothing that I would look at to be like, maybe that's fake. No,
It's
you
like,
show me an idol is an idol.
I will say, the idols used to be way more intense looking, way harder to fake than they are now. Because now they're really just beads on strings. They're used
Literally,
to
I'd be like, yeah, that looks legit.
idols.
Fine.
There used to be. I mean, they obviously they're closer to what they have an Australian Survivor that fucking George has ugly tattooed right onto his chest. Yeah, no. So back in the day, you would have probably been able to tell, but nowadays it's tough because they really do make them in a way that makes it easy for people to fake them. Probably
so
on purpose.
would you say that that's a positive thing about the modern era of Survivor versus the older era? That the fact that it makes it more confusing that you can fake things like that now?
I think that's totally subjective. Honestly, I enjoy a fake idol situation. I think it's a lot of fun. I like when that sort of like ingenuity is put to task. But I'm sure there are people out there that are like, no, we miss the old ones. I don't know. I think it's fun. I mean, this whole thing wouldn't have worked if not for that, and it would have been a lot less interesting because of it, unless they really pulled together and like created a good fake looking idol.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. You know what was funny about the fake idol to me also was Teeny, because I felt like when Andy was talking to the rest of the Underdog Alliance after the Sanctuary reward, Teeny was like the only one that was like, no, I don't think Genevieve has an idol. I think it's fake. I don't think she has it. No way. She definitely doesn't have one. And then the second Genevieve flashed it at her for like a half of a second, Teeny was like, crap, she has an idol. I'm like, how do you flip flop so fast? But you know,
because they saw it. If I saw it, I'd be like, yeah, that's legit.
They saw something. They saw something that looks exactly the same as every necklace that everybody is wearing out there on the island. But like we just said, it's easier to fake these things now than in the past. So I don't know. I also feel like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Okay.
All right. I think that's it for the next on, right? Teeny tells the others about Rachel's block vote. We said that already. Rachel's really mad about something. All right. Any other thoughts? Anything that I missed from this particular episode of Survivor 47?
I don't think so.
I've complained about what I needed to complain about.
All right. Well, let's get into some of our draft team stuff and our fantasy drafts. So first, we will go to the episode 12 team totals. Gina Morgino blowing everybody out of the water this week. 43.5 points.
That's
Team
crazy.
Dunphy, Team Dunphy and Team Marmon tying with 17 points. And Kyle Petty, I'm sorry, just 8 points this week. Our team totals for the season. I will say, I moved into third place this week after being in fourth all season. But Gina in first place with 441 points. Team Marmon with in second place with 409. It's a song, right? Isn't that a Beach Boys song? Give me my 409. Right? You know that song? 409, 409. Right? You know that song, right? Classic. All right. Anyway, Team Dunphy in third place with 371 points. Team Petty bringing up the rear. This is really why he's not here tonight.
He said, I can't possibly show myself.
363 points. Okay. Our episode 12 castaway totals. Genevieve in first place, 17.5 points. Sam with 17. Rachel with 16.5, Andy with 15.5. It's funny to me because Genevieve and Sam and Andy were our three conspirators this week, right? Coming up with the plan. So was Rachel's immunity win the only thing that bumped her up above Andy, I guess?
Rachel had the immunity win. There was something else that she did that bumped her up a bit. But she also, I think Rachel had a lot of
Confessionals?
confessionals this week as well.
Okay. All right. All right. And here's our season totals. It's very funny to me. All three of our top three are GATA members, the only remaining GATA members. Suddenly, Sue is the only remaining member of Tuku. And
3,
we've got
2, 1.
Yeah. Very interesting. I'm honestly, Mikey, I'm fascinated by your fantasy draft point system here.
Me too.
Yeah.
I did a good job. No,
Proud of you.
You really did. I also have another surprise for you guys. Another bummer that Kyle's not here. Another bummer that Kyle's not here tonight. Oh, updated graphics. Team Petty with only Sue remaining. Kyle, Annika, and Rome all gone.
Tough luck.
I'm gonna bring Gina's up last.
Fine.
Well, because save the best for last, right?
Yeah, I just wanted somebody else to say it.
Yeah, I lost Caroline this week. I've also lost TK, Sierra, and John. Sorry, John. But still have Rachel left. And you know what? Not mad about it.
Not a bad
It's a solid one to have left.
Yeah. Team Marmon, Tiana, Gabe, Soul, all gone. Sam remaining.
The white men.
How do you feel about Sam's chances? You think he's got a shot?
I think this plan helped him quite a bit. I think for Sam, it comes down to who he's up against. You put Sam up against like someone like Sue and maybe even Genevieve, and I think he's got a shot. You put Sam up against Andy and Rachel, I think it's a harder sell. I think it really just depends who he is sitting next to at the end.
If Sam's at the end, do you think he's got Sierra's vote no matter what?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, maybe. Again, I think a lot of people nowadays, even like if their best friend is up there, if someone played a better game, they will vote for that person.
Yeah.
I'm dead that Kyle's still here, even though he's not here. For the record.
We have to have him in there somehow. All right. And then now, Team Morgino. There are 6 players remaining on this season, and Gina has 3 of them. 50% of the players still in the game.
Crazy.
I will say we've got Andy here, Teeny, Kishan, Genevieve. Not pictured is Asia. Gina has lost 2 players, but has 3 remaining. Who do you think is the player that you have now has the best shot to win?
So, like, unfortunately for my draft and for the lore of Strat Chat, it is Andy. And that's not going to feel satisfying because I benched him and I have him by default. And I'm happy to have him, but I didn't draft him, so it doesn't really count. But I don't know. Andy's really... The edit has been painting Andy in a way that I feel like he's going to win for the last, like, 2 or 3 weeks now.
Yeah. He certainly could.
And his like I love a good arc, you know, like he started in the most chaotic position you could possibly start in. So to see where his game has gone is so fun.
Yeah. Now, Andy has been super interesting to watch. I feel like we're going to see Andy again also.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of what happens this season.
If nothing else, he's a character for sure.
Yeah. There was a point where I thought we were going to get a segment, by the way, of him like saying like, yeah, all that stuff in the beginning of the season was kind of like me playing. I was like kind of playing it up, but
we still could in the finale,
which I still think is a possibility. But like, I almost thought we were getting it at first because he started saying like they showed a flashback of him from the first episodes and him being like, the way I started this game, blah blah blah, and then now I'm trying to do this, but it wasn't really like showing that he had this whole calculated thing. But like, I almost thought for a second, I was like, wait a minute, is this really all an act?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think he just like really had a little bit of like a mental breakdown and then I think he maybe have like when he got to the point where medical was around him, he probably had a moment of like, oh fuck, now I got to play this up.
Yeah.
Because like now like they've called the medical team in, but I don't think, because it was too early in the game and there was too much of a chance for him to have been voted out because of it, for that to have been some sort of strategy.
No, I think you're right. I don't actually think that this is what happened. But like for a moment there, the way they started showing a flashback with him talking, I was like, wait a minute.
John was like, hold on.
I was like, is Andy actually like seriously like a genius? But all right. I think that's all I got. You guys have anything else? Am I forgetting anything?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, then I guess that's it. We are here at the pointy end. There are 6 players remaining. We have 2 episodes left that are apparently both finale episodes. But they're 1 week apart from each other.
That's one finale and one pre-finale episode. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a weird way to market that.
We have a 4-hour finale apparently that is going to take place over 2 weeks. So, listen, that's kind of weird and annoying, but I will say I am enjoying the season and how things have been winding up. I feel like this is kind of like all over the place, and I love it. So I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the season with you guys. So this week, Wednesday will be part 1 of the Survivor finale, which we'll be discussing next Monday, right? I'm assuming, which will be Monday the 16th, December 16th. And next Thursday, well, this Thursday first, we'll be talking to Challenge 40. Who knows what's going on with that show? I feel like we have no idea. Are they purging people? There's 10 people left, I think, right?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Wait.
I think there's 10.
11. No. 10. I forgot to cross off of Eve. 10.
All right. So this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be discussing the next episode of the Challenge 40 Battle of the Eras. Next Monday, we'll be back on the 16th to discuss the latest episode of Survivor 47 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So, find us on the socials at Strat Chat Pod. That's where you can find out exactly what we're doing, when we're doing it, what's going on in the reality TV world. Find us, especially on Blue Sky, because we're getting on there this week. I'm making a point of getting us on Blue Sky active this week. So find us, and thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.